it is important not to take everything Trump says at face value, but also watch his policies, of course. But do you not think it's a bit of a difference comparing tariffs of the US and India with what he wants to do in the Middle East with one of the most complex geopolitical issues?
His line of thought is the same. Just the game will change, that's all. His approach to every problem is this. You see what he did with Putin. Oh, Putin has lost 1 million soldiers. Putin, 1 million? I didn't hear of that. What is this? It was so ridiculous. He does that. He does that to garner attention. He does that because media picks it up. He knows it. He's a master in media. Modi Saab, for that matter, is a master in mass communication. Communicating with 1.4 billion people, not easy. These guys know their target audience and they attack them with stuff that would work with that audience.
This is The Global Gambit.
All right. So part two, everybody. We're sitting here with Aadi of Dev Talks, and we're having a pretty wide-ranging conversation. I mainly focus on foreign policy, geopolitics, but we are dissecting USAID. And so we ended on that cliffhanger, Aadi, about USAID. And I think one of the things, as I said in the end of the first half, was that the representation thing, the DEI thing, has gotten out of control. It's gone too far. And as I can make a little joke, but I've worked in the World Bank, I've worked in these institutions, and I've worked in teams where the majority of people have actually been from India, from Africa, from South America. And one of the ladies who was senior in one of my teams once, she told me, we're going to have to do a recruitment drive for people like you. And I was like, what do you mean? And she said, well, you're a white man, right? And I was like, well, yeah. You're straight, yeah. Well, then we need more of you because you're underrepresented. We've gone so far the other way that now we need more white.
Now, do you know the regime change that happened in Bangladesh was spearheaded by LGBTQ troops? I'm saying using the word troops.
You think?
Read the IRI report.
It's
there. Grey Zone has done a detailed study on this. The IRI has submitted a report to the State Department in 2018, 2019 saying that the only groups that we can identify to influence is the LGBTQ groups, the rappers in Bangladesh, and anywhere that you see US influence, please go and check the music industry. You will have somebody from the US funding that. The kind of songs that were made were anti-government songs. They were the shock troops that basically spread the information around the place. They were used for this entire purpose. Now today, by the way, in Bangladesh, because of the Islamist takeover, those same people are not allowed in the markets. So useful idiots, right? So this is how it goes. They create these forces around within every country. DEI is not because they like someone and they want to include them. It's called, in Hindi, there's something called the Mai Baap syndrome. You know what is Mai is mother?
I've heard of
Baap is father.
Yeah. But no,
right? I am your mother and father, buddy. I gave you a job. Now you freaking well listen to me. And not just you, your entire group listens to me now. They control things like that. They'll give them a little money. They'll give them a little bit of online fame. They'll give them access. Take them out for there's a whole lot of ways that you can influence people.
Oh, for sure. No, and I think I don't know if insidious is necessarily the right word, but as I said, I've lived in Washington for 5 years and I've been in the system. So, a lot of people will hear that and be like, oh, he's a globalist. He agrees with everything. Not necessarily. Just because I've been in it doesn't mean I agree with everything. I think the
you get a kick and you learn stuff. Like, oh.
Yeah, exactly. It's a good opening experience. But I certainly come away with a lot of your frustrations and sentiments, which is why I've been glad we finally got to have this conversation. But about India and its role through these institutions, right? One of them is the G20. We've mentioned the BRICS, and I want to ask you about that. But, India held a remarkable leadership at G20 in 2023, I believe it was, right? And Modi made it very clear that India was here now. India is ready to be a leader, not just be an up-and-coming emerging economy. It is a leader in areas of what you did with the space exploration as well. 23 was a fantastic year for India. So how do you think India should engage in those kinds of organizations? And how do you look at those kinds of organizations personally?
They're alternatives to the United Nations. Simple.
Yep. The UN. But Modi's made clear he wants to be part of the UN as well.
That's how you do it. There are two types of powers in the world. There's something called the reformist powers and there's something called as revisionist powers. China is a revisionist power. He wants to change, upend the world order and have everybody toe his line. We're saying, no, the world order is good. It's fantastic. We need to change it so that it works for the realities of today. So
I agree with that.
there's a difference. Now, how do you do that? You do that by convincing the rest of the world. Now, how do you do that? By you create multilateral organizations and you make them effective and make them inclusive. Who brought the African Union into G20?
Yes.
50 more countries in one shot. Now, you count the number of countries that are there in the G20 itself. That crosses 130.
Yeah, I mean, number isn't really reflective of it anymore, is it?
No, numbers are. Because at the end of it, here are 130 countries saying the world order is not working for us. We need to change. There's a reason India did the Voice of the Global South. How many people turned up? 135. Now, that's a huge number for anybody who looks at, 135 countries. Okay.
Yeah.
We need to consider this.
No, I agree. I think that's the problem with the G7. It's too almost elitist, right? It's just
what are you trying to do?
West
You're trying to tell the world that, listen, if you don't do this, there are other ways you can skin a cat.
Skin a cat, yeah.
Right? There are other ways of doing business. We are doing it. We work with the Global South, absolutely fantastic, no problem. We work with the G20, absolutely fantastic. And as a matter of fact, we are one of the first countries that got a damn consensus in the middle of a hot war. So that counts for something. So what example did you give? That, yeah, you can work through things. There's nothing rigid in this world. You can figure it out. This multilateralism has to survive. And that's exactly what multi-alignment is, what we were talking about before. Is the same thing. If you look at BRICS, for that matter, BRICS was formed to kind of push back on the financial system. What BRICS failed to do, a lot of people put the appreciations on BRICS, but I am a critic. I love the grouping. It's fantastic. It's a non-Western grouping. But then where is your headquarters? If I need to write to the president of BRICS, who do I write to? Where do I send an email? Where do I send a package? Where do I send a book? Where do I send a paper? There's nothing. There is no structure whatsoever. It's just a positioning platform. Now, positioning doesn't work in the world.
Well, I think that's one of the things about BRICS that, and I want your take on this, obviously, but for me, BRICS has a lot of potential. I've always been skeptical of how fast it can grow, but also because the bigger it gets, the more voices you have to listen to. And also there is a big, I think, fracture in the Russians and the Chinese, or at least Putin and Xi, have a much more, as you said, a revisionist, a revanchist, almost potentially predatorial interpretation of the world versus India, Brazil, which are more on the middle, right?
They're more. Russia is in the middle. You'll be surprised to know that Russia does not share China's ambition of a revisionist world.
Well, I hope
he doesn't. You know what he says? You know what?
China dominates Russia, then, doesn't he?
Yeah, exactly. So, he doesn't like it. Now, the hedge that the Russians use is India. Why is India so important for Russia? Have you thought about that?
Because it's a counterbalance against China. Well, I should say thank you, right?
What happens here is that here are three countries who are at the center of the power balance, and all three of them don't agree with one player in the middle. And that's why you can't ever have a BRICS currency.
Interesting. So you see a limitation in BRICS as well. There is a huge limitation
unless China actually sits down and gets his act in shape, which I don't think he's going to do. How do you trust China? Who trusts China? No one. You can do business with China.
Well, yeah, well, you're saying everything that I say, so I think that's really interesting. But so, what about the fact that BRICS grows, right? Everyone who's so anti-America, right? They say BRICS is growing, it's growing, it's going to.
It's not anti-America. It's anti the current rules-based order that the previous American establishment was trying to force down everybody's throats.
Okay, so how do you?
It's a resistance.
What would an international order look like then? Let's
except for China, everybody agrees India needs to be on the board, on the big table. That's common in BRICS, that's common in G20, that's common in G7, that's common everywhere except the Chinese. Because they know when a power like this comes into this thing, there will be a multi-aligned order that will come out. They don't want that. If you remember what she told Barack Obama, G2. You keep half, I keep half. You think the Russians were like that? No ways. They have had a
No,
disagreement on Gaza itself.
I
There's a huge disagreement on
I
Gaza.
interview a lot of people, right, Andy, and I wasn't sure how we were gonna. I was expecting you to have more of a BRICS anti-US, but you've got a very, I think, balanced
I am not anti
perspective.
anybody. I am not anti anybody.
No, you know, you never know. People can be
Yeah.
like, we're tired of the,
I'm
Sorry, go ahead.
pro-India.
I keep.
There's a difference.
Okay.
See, that's the problem. A lot of people become anti something. When you become anti something, then you're focusing your energy towards that. And that's what pragmatism is all about in the Indian foreign policy. We're not anti anybody. We are pro-India. The difference is that you're wanting to find a way to work through various different challenges and get what you want. At the end of it, that's what I need, right? You can keep cribbing about bloody freedom of speech in India. I don't care. Give me this. I want this. And I'm more concerned with the deliverables rather than this narrative. And that's what you've seen in India. I mean, nobody bothers when people write articles in the Washington Post. Who cares? Keep writing. Thank you. Fantastic. The Washington Post probably, I kind of read it with a paywall cracker. It'll be, you can count the number of people on your fingers who have the Washington Post subscription in India. Nobody cares what people are thinking. In India, it's like, listen, yeah, we know. Go. You want to do business? Come sit down with me. Be respectful. Let's do business. If not, fair enough. Move forward. Look at the jet engines for that matter. Americans gave us the middle finger in terms of the jet engine. They signed a deal and they reneged, delayed it for 2 years. Today, India has offers from Russia, France, England, and even Japan, by the way. And we've got our own jet engine coming up. So try doing it again. We will hedge our bets. We are making small modular nuclear reactors with Russia, France, America, with everyone. So that's not going to happen again. We're not going to get ourselves stuck with a single world. That's not going to happen. And that's what pragmatism, the rest of the world says, yeah, these guys are able to get their work done. Then why should I be stuck in this loop of only going to one? I can go to anybody and I can work like this person works. Or I can go to him and say, yeah, hello, I need this help. I know you can't give me that much money, but let me know how we can figure this out. And people do come. You see our reach within Africa, it's growing.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've visited Africa a lot. I lived there for a couple of years, and I think that what's very interesting is the transactionalism. And this is sort of another thing I wanted to ask you a little bit, because one of the reasons India, I think, has done very well is that autonomy, but it's dealt with countries on their terms. It hasn't tried to come in with too many additional things like you must adhere to X, you must do this. And I think a lot of African nations appreciate that.
I don't care.
So
I don't care.
What do you think about India in the future, though? Do you think India is going to have to pick a side if the Trump administration were to get more combative over China with Taiwan? Do you think India would come to the support? Maybe minimally?
No.
Because ultimately India is being pushed to the US because of China. It's not being pulled because of the US, but China is so aggressive in its near abroad, Kashmir, Nepal, Bhutan, etc. Does that push India towards the Americans?
We can deal with China on our own terms. Remember one thing, there's only one country in the world where China has walked back from. That's India. Not once, 4 times. Look what we did to them in 2017 in Dolam, in the northeast of India. They went back. They came in 2020 in about 6 areas. First 2 in 2021, they walked back. Right now, what has happened again? They've gone back. We are still sitting there. Our army has not moved an inch back at all. We have got the same amount of deployment. As a matter of fact, we've increased our deployment. The Chinese went back. I'll ask you a question. You came to a no man's land, put up tents, drew your flag on the ground so that satellites could see it, right? Made volleyball courts and basketball courts and this and that, which your soldiers can't use because they're at freaking 16,000 feet. Those poor monkeys are not coming out of their tent because they're using pure oxygen all the time. Fair enough, you did all that. Now, where are those? You had to break them down and go back. Who won? China is the larger power. When you go back, when America went back from Afghanistan, who won?
Well, yeah.
Everybody knows America lost the war. Simple, straight. Let's be honest. So when the larger power has to go back, that's what we made him do.
But what about, therefore, to bring it into the news cycle a little bit, contemporary developments? At the end of last year, early this year, we've seen China and India beginning to have a reapproachment. They're trying to improve relations in the past few years. Do you have much faith in that, or you think it's a bit?
No.
You don't. It's just a smoke and
It's
mirrors.
a breather for about 4-5 years.
Right.
There is something known as, in India, you have these sword shields, where you put swords, where there's a hole for a single sword. It's only a single sword that can stay in Asia.
Right.
Two lions don't rule the jungle. This clash will happen, right? The issue is when. The Thucydides trap, right? Why is America anti-China today? It has to happen. There's no way out.
So you are confident of some kind of conflict
It may be a
in
war.
South
It may be just a clash, which is trade, diplomacy, influence. Whole lot of things.
Isn't that happening now?
It is. It is pretty much a war for us.
So, but where does that leave India then? Because, as you said, the US is anti-China, to use your words that you don't
interesting.
like.
What do you do, right? Wherever your interests collide, you work with them. Wherever they don't, you don't. Simple, straight.
So India, but I want some tangible examples.
All right,
I'll
give you an example of Quad. I'll give you the example of Quad.
Okay, Quad is a great example.
The US wants it to be militarized. We say no, it's not going to happen. There is a part of it which is military, which is called the Malabar exercises, but we don't militarize it. That's why they had to create AUKUS. Yeah,
you think?
Because there was a complete, clear refusal. No, we're not going to do it. I'm not getting into your fight. Will you come and assist me when the Chinese attack me in Ladakh? Will you? Can your soldiers even survive there? No. So, thank you.
So, okay. But what about also, but then another example. So India's been part of the I2U2, which is that alliance or whatever framework in Middle East. Isn't that an illustration that India is willing to get a little bit more involved on America's side? Or because it serves India's interests?
Yeah, so we are also part of the SEO where we do exercises with Russia. We do military exercises with Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Saudi Arabia, UAE. We train people from Iraq, from Oman, from Qatar. We've got military contacts with all of them.
And so what about, therefore, let's say China and India do go to some kind of renewed conflict. What would that mean for Russia, in your opinion, from an Indian perspective? What
he
would
doesn't
Russia
want that to happen, but he knows this will happen. But let me tell you one thing, in both of them, one of the things that you will see is the Russians will not assist the Chinese against India. It will not happen. And I'll give you a clear, clean example of it. The Chinese ordered the S-400 in 2016. We ordered it in 2018, 2019. They got there first in 2019. We got our first in 2020. They knew. The Russians don't give the Chinese what the Chinese want. They give us everything we want. Today, the Su-30, which is the mainstay of the Indian Air Force today, which is in the largest numbers, the Sukhoi 30. We have the keys. We can do what we want to with it. The upgrades are happening by ourselves. As a matter of fact, today they've signed an agreement with Malaysia to upgrade the Malaysian Su-30s. And the Russians are saying, listen, we can't handle this. You have everything to figure it out, man. I don't want to do this anymore. Because I have my war to fight here. So, figure it out. Here are the spares, designs, this, that. Keep it, do what you want to. But yeah, if you guys are producing some more, as per the license listing, just give me my fees. That's all. That's the agreement. So we are maintaining and upgrading Sukhois for the Egyptians and the Malaysians. 2 countries have already signed the contract. These are Russian jets. Why didn't this happen in China?
Distrust.
Exactly. The S-400s, we have our own industry now building up, which will make its own spares for the S-400. The Chinese don't have that. Chinese have to run to Russia to get every spare.
There was one report that Reuters made late last year, though, that the Russians were developing an advanced drone factory in northeastern China, if I remember correctly. So isn't that an example where the Russians are going quite
Now I'll explain to you what it is. The Iranian drone, Shahed 136, where does it come from? It's a Chinese design. Right? Chinese have been supplying shit to all these countries around the place. It's a Chinese design. The Russians need it. They'll work. It's not a problem. See, you must look at it. We are very pragmatic in that particular way of our relationship. Where we have to work, we have to work. You do something here and there which I don't like, I'll probably tell you. I'll tell you to be careful if it hits my interest. If it doesn't hit my interest, go do what you want to. What difference does it make to me? The Russians have never told Modi that, oh, why are you going to the White House? But the White House did make statements when Modi went to Russia. There was a huge hue and cry of these so-called ex-farts. I'm sorry. Because Modi hugged Putin. The guy hugs everyone. I mean, that's how he is. Washington Post wrote articles about it. Modi betrays the West and there must be costs. And the photograph was what? Modi hugging Putin. Really? Pragmatism is lost.
I think from the West point of view, it's that whole point that they want and believe India to be a democracy, and therefore they think that India would not agree with what Putin's doing because it's an attack.
Let me explain this to you. It's a thought process. In the
I
West,
understand.
everything is a binary. It's either this way or that way. The West says either you're with me or you're against me. That's not how the world works. World is very transactional. I want you for something.
For sure.
But I may not want you as my permanent friend.
I personally believe that the West should be more transactional. I think that if we drop some of these sort of instilled ideals, I mean, we can still believe in what we prefer, but constantly trying to enforce it on everyone, or as you said, stuff it down people's throats, is not the way to go about it, because all it leads to is resistance and counterproduction. So I very much agree with that.
There's also civilizational factors. What is acceptable to you in the West
isn't in India. No, 100%.
Probably not in India. What is acceptable to me here may not be acceptable to you. That's fine. That's how it is. People are different, right?
The first episode I ever had with a gentleman was on Bharat, actually, and that relationship of historical India and sub-Indian continent. So what's your take there? Do you believe that a greater India is possible? I don't know, the absorption of Pakistan or bits of Bangladesh, or you think it's more we don't live in that now because, to
India
your point
never
about
had
India
that
wants
kind of boundaries. Let me be very clear. What we had was a cooperative system.
Right.
It's called the Chakravarti system.
Yes.
The kingdom in India would control these countries, but give them a certain amount of autonomy and their own rule. All we had used to have a minister in the court.
Right.
Who would influence decisions towards India's interests. It wasn't always a physical ownership of land. India never believed in that. And that's why when the narrative says we've never attacked anybody, that's true. We have. As a matter of fact, we've kicked a lot of ass around the place. That's different. But if you go back into our history, there's a lot of wars. I mean, our gods are, have you noticed something? Gods have multiple hands, right?
Mm-hmm.
In one hand, they're kind of blessing you. Just look at the hands behind. They're weapons. So anybody who thinks India is a pacifist country, no. We believe in peace as the first approach, which is what our gods are saying. Peace, blessings, let's all work together. But if you muck around with me, I'm going to cut your throat. And that's the thing at the back. So that's what is being taught to us. Gandhi taught us, don't hurt. Today, everybody's going back to our civilization saying, listen, we are bloody damn well warriors in this area. Yeah? We know how things work. Now, how the Indian system worked was basically a matter of influence.
Okay.
It was a clear and cut influence. So yeah, that will happen. You will find that happening and regionalization of powers will take place, not just with India, but with all the other powers as well. Let me give you an example. The Americans have something called the Monroe Doctrine, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What is Trump trying to do with Panama, Canada, Greenland, South America? Implement that Monroe again, throwing China out from Panama. Mexico needs to behave. Canada become the 51st state. What is he trying to do? Don't go by the wild rhetoric of Trump. Trump has a lot of wildness about him. People don't realize the guy makes a lot of sense without kind of making sense. He's trying to get that Monroe thing back and saying, listen, this is my area. Don't come here. By him dealing with Russia today and saying, listen, okay, fair enough. Ukraine war is wrong. Let's figure this out. Let's back off. Let's not do this. What is he trying to do? Leave the Russian influence area alone. By saying, I will leave Bangladesh to the Prime Minister of India, what is he doing? Hey, this is your influence area, buddy. You figure it out.
So this leads quite nicely, I think, into my last question, which is that we're in a world where Trump is rejecting multilateralism. He is returning to power politics. The world is, as
That's
I said earlier,
That's what people feel. That's where people misread him. See, people go by his words.
But he is making quite aggressive rhetoric to other countries, but that might include India, therefore. So how do you think India, one, could, but also should navigate Trump in his first couple of years as
I'll
president?
give you an example to explain this a little better. Gaza. What did he say? Take out everybody from Gaza, send them to Jordan and this and that. Everybody bloody shit. How can you do this? This is bloody ethnic cleansing. This is genocide. Oh, no. What did Marco Rubio said? Okay, fair enough. You don't want to do this. Don't do it. Give me another damn plan, because what is happening right now can't exist. What did he do? He started a conversation. That's Trump. That's what he does. He's unorthodox. He starts a conversation by putting something so freaking ridiculous that people say, oh, no, wait, we need to figure this out. India knew that their tariffs are an issue. What did we do? We know Trump wants 3 things to be sold in India: cars, bikes, and whiskey. We reduced the tariffs. Why argue with the guy, man? Then we will say, okay, fine, we've reduced the tariffs here. We need this, this, and this. He'll say, yeah, take it. Did he say anything to Modi about tariffs there when he was there in the White House? No, nothing. He just said, oh, these guys tariff too much. I don't blame them. Biden was very bad to them. Oh, but we'll work it out. It's reciprocal. But, we're also working on a trade deal with each other. We want to take this damn thing up to $500 billion. Where is the threat here?
Well, Aadi, I appreciate that. And I think it is important not to take everything Trump says at face value, but also watch his policies, of course. But do you not think it's a bit of a difference comparing tariffs of the US and India with what he wants to do in the Middle East with one of the most complex geopolitical issues?
His line of thought is the same. Just the game will change. That's all. His approach to every problem is this. You see what he did with Putin. Oh, Putin has lost 1 million soldiers. Putin, 1 million? I didn't hear of that. What is this? It was so ridiculous. He does that. He does that to garner attention. He does that because media picks it up. He knows it. He's a master in media. Modi Saab, for that matter, is a master in mass communication. Communicating with 1.4 billion people, not easy.
No, and I respect that.
Modi is a master at that. He knows how to communicate with people. And he reaches the bloody auto wala guy on the street, the flower vendor on the street, the fruit vendor he reaches them all. We probably don't hear it, but they know it. These guys know their target audience and they attack them with stuff that would work with that audience. The world needed a jerk. Trump is giving that jerk. And everybody's kind of shaking out of it and saying, shit, oh bloody hell. Europe was saying we are big powers and this and that. Today, Europe is realizing you're no one.
I wouldn't count Europe off just yet, but maybe that's my European.
It's not off, but Europe is kind of facing a huge challenge today. The hit back that JD Vance did in Munich Security Conference, I don't think people would have anticipated something like that coming across from the American vice president. What happened there is basically, it's not disrespecting Europe. It's telling Europe, listen, times are changing. Get rid of this old nonsense. It's not going to work anymore.
Wake up,
exactly, and reset yourselves. That's all.
No, I 100% agree with that. I made even a tweet about it with one gentleman where he said they left, JD Vance left European leaders stunned. Why are you stunned? You've had over a year to expect Trump and his VP to approach with this method, right? Why are you still
India
stunned?
is not stunned. Why? Because we studied the president.
Stunned because your guys are clever about it, right? European leaders are very frustrating. They sit in the same way and expect things not to change. It's like, guys, pull your finger. Well, as my father says from Moscow, right? Pull your finger out, get up, do something, and maybe you'll have better options.
You look at what India did. That's what I'm saying. Before Modi went there, he knew 3-4 things Trump is going to say. Yeah, you're not selling my cars. All right. Reduce the car tariff. He doesn't have anything to say. You're not selling my whiskey. Reduce it. You got illegals. I'll take them back, but I need to verify them. But you know what? Can you help me out a little bit? There are a couple of criminals in your country that you can send back. Yeah, we'll do that. We absolutely, no problem. Criminals are coming back. They're getting caught at the airport. So you got to make, politics is about finding ways of doing stuff rather than just sitting there and saying, no, I'm not going to do this. I don't accept it. This cannot happen. That's rigidity. The geopolitical environment in the world is about to change, and people who there with the change. The current leadership of Europe, God bless the people of Germany. I appreciate Germany quite a bit. I love the country. It's got a lot of history, a lot of civilization, this, that. If they elect Olaf Scholz again, they're done. It's over.
No, they can't. No, they're not going to. But I worry about the effectiveness of Merz as the leader of Germany.
It's a new message, right? It's a new message. People say they're neo-Nazi and this. I don't buy all this neo-Nazi nonsense. I don't buy this hardcore right-wing and this and that. In today's day and age, you can't do that kind of stuff. There are people who are doing it, which is the radical Islamists around the world. Nobody wants to say anything to them. Why? Because they're your vote bank. They're your vote freaking bank. British girls are getting raped. Is that fair? I felt so sorry for that. I saw Indian girls, they're Sikh girls and Hindu girls and stuff like that. And I saw little British girls talking about it. I said, yeah, Britain is for Brits. It's for that. You may not like the Brits, but it's their country. Why are these guys coming across and look at the judges there? Oh, he didn't know that gang rape was illegal. Excuse me? You can't do this anymore. You can't be at the middle path of walking on a knife's edge all the time because you want to appease everybody. It's not going to work. And the whole system is crumbling, and Europe refuses to recognize that.
No, I think you either need to move with the times and adapt or get left behind.
Look at what happened yesterday in Germany. Somebody wrote idiot to Olaf Scholz and they kind of picked him up and put him in prison.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And you tell India about freedom of speech. Let me give you a figure. In the past year in India, about online nonsense, something somebody wrote or this and that, probably about 50, 60 people got arrested. 50, 60. And that's because they probably called to kill someone or some crap like that. 4,000 people a month in Europe.
Well, we've got an issue with that in the UK as well. You're not allowed to post certain opinions on Facebook, or you've had police turning up at your door
in India.
Rather,
as long as you don't, really offend someone or, do something which is really, really bad. People get after you and file cases and stuff. Otherwise, people keep abusing Modi, this, that. Twitter is full of it. Oh, he's a swine, he's this, he's a lunky, he's a punky, he's a tunky, he's this, he's uneducated, he's that. It's on all the time. We don't care. Talk. Then we also call, the other people also call their leaders like whatever they want to. So it's okay. Doesn't matter. So freedom of speech and this and that is a perception. And it's a civilizational attribute. How much a civilization wants to actually accept it is depending on that civilization. A European or an American standard will not fit in China. Chinese as a people have always had a single leader. So the system in China, I may not like it, but it's their system. I'm not here to break down the system in China. Chinese have always had a, Tanzia concept. You know what's Tanzia? Tanzia is the center of the world. A mandate from heaven, so called. So they say that the leader in China has the mandate from heaven to do whatever he wants to in the country. The ideal Chinese and Taiwanese scenario in this world is Singapore, a police state.
Yeah. No, that's where we're going.
That's their ideal. So that's how they are. They're culturally like that. Don't tell them to be people talk about Taiwan being a democracy, right? Oh, really? Could you please read what till 1996, what used to happen in the country? How many people used to get shot in the middle of the street by the government? There was a martial dictator's law in Taiwan till 95, 96. People forget that. Oh, it's an ideal democracy. Oh, come on.
No, it's not been a. I think more people try to emphasize the fact that it grew economically very well, but
so let's look at South Korea.
The wasn't very good.
The president literally called a martial law in South Korea last month. Is that democracy? Really? I have not seen that in today's day and age. What are we talking about here? Does a martial law exist in this world anywhere else except for so-called backward countries in Africa? If is the same paradigm, then South Korea should be Africa. With all due respect to my friends in Africa, I love them. That's how they are. They like a single leader. Why fight it? Democracy does not work in every place in the world. It just doesn't. If you think Pakistan, there's a democracy, excellent. That's all. Because in Afghanistan, you failed 20 years to bring in democracy. You failed in Iraq, you failed in Vietnam, you failed in you just stop. Just stop it. Let people be the way they are. Their own cultural values make them rule themselves, and let it be. Let time take its own way and bring things to a conclusion, because abrupt change will always bring in bloodshed, and terrible bloodshed. What we're seeing in Bangladesh. Certain societies are like that.
Yeah, the thing in Bangladesh, you need to do a video on that. I think we need to cover that. But Aadi, we should definitely have you back. I would love to. I don't know. I feel like it would be good to do a live stream with you or something. Maybe we can figure something else out. But it's been an absolute pleasure. We've covered, everything under the sun, to be honest. And I really appreciate some of your takes. I appreciate you being able to acknowledge the value of some things, but also being like, this is obviously clearly corrupt or exploited. I think that's a very healthy balance, and that's what I try to strive for.
I'm not anti anybody, please.
No, I certainly don't get that sense.
That's all.
Yeah, for sure. And I think we all want India to be prosperous, because at the end of the day, that would be an absolute win for everybody. It'd be a win-win, and win-win-win. But Aadi, thank you very much. And for you, everyone, if you're watching from India or, not, please do join us again, subscribe, and give the video a like, and check out Aadi if you're new to his channel, and commentary, because it's been some very insightful commentary. And as we say on the Global Gambit, you've either got to get playing or be played, which I think is more applicable than ever. Take care, everybody.